Is it possible to get an hour's worth of stuff done in 30 minutes? How about creating a habit in 21 seconds rather than 21 days? I have a special guest with us today, and his answer to both of these questions is yes, in fact, you can. And he's going to really break down the how to part of this for us today. I'm super excited to dig into this. I am Tim Fitzpatrick with Rialto Marketing, where we believe marketing shouldn't be difficult. All you need is the right plan. I am really excited to have Blaine Oelkers with me today from Selfluence. Blaine, welcome and thanks for being here.
Tim, thank you for having me on the show. I am excited to be here. Now, you get to give us a tall order there.
Yeah.
But people will leave today being able to do 30-minute hours, get an hour's worth of stuff done in 30 minutes, and 21-second habits, creating new habits in 21 seconds, not 21 days. But I wanted to start off just by saying thank you to you for putting this together, putting it online, streaming it live, but then also putting it online for people to consume, not only today, but tomorrow and the future. So you are going to have what I call a big results ripple effect out there. And my guess is that some of your stuff, which I've looked at it, is so good that you're going to touch lives not yet born. Somebody's not even born yet. 20 years, 30 years from now, they're going to find these shows, maybe this show, and their life will be changed. So thank you for that. And I'm excited to share today some things that I think people can walk away with and use.
Awesome. My pleasure. Thank you for that. Yeah, hopefully it is impacting somebody and we never even know it. So before we dig into some of these productivity and results secrets, I want to ask you some rapid fire questions, help us get to know you. You ready to go?
Let's do it.
Okay. When you're not working, how do you like to spend your time?
I'm in my home office, and right over there is the Peloton bike, and I love the Peloton bike. I bought it for my wife, about 650 days ago, and I've ridden it every day since. So that is something that I do enjoy, and I like to stay in shape. I will say that I have bought a little attachment where a little thing that slides in and turns it into a desk. So if I need to keep working, I can, because I'm a little bit tight that way. But I do like that bike.
Okay. Does your wife still ride the bike?
Yes, she does.
Okay.
And she did get to her 100th ride where you get the free T-shirt. So
okay.
So
Good
we're
for
good.
her. What's your hidden talent?
I think my hidden talent is to help people take control of their lives by taking control of themselves. And that's why you mentioned Selfluence. More than a decade ago, I started this company to kind of help people do that. But that's where I think my little genius zone is.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
My mentor, my favorite mentor is a guy named Jim Rohn. And so have you ever heard of
Yes.
have you ever heard of Jim Rohn?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he said, and I shared the stage with him. I booked him at an event. I shared the stage with him. And that night he said, it's not what happens to you that determines your life future. It's what you do about what happens. And he went on to tell a little story about a sailboat and the blowing of the wind and all that. But what it made me realize is that I don't have to worry about what happens, in life, because my future is not going to be determined by circumstance. It's going to be my reaction. It's going to be what I do about that. And that made a big impact on me. And I try to share that methodology with others.
What's one thing about you that surprises people?
When people ask me that question, I usually say that I legally married my wife on her 7th birthday. So Tim, do you know how that's possible?
I don't. This sounds like a riddle.
Well, it is a little bit.
Okay.
So it was on her 7th birthday. We got married. I had a cake there for her, a birthday cake, but she was 28 years old because she's a leap day baby. So she only has the birthday every 4 years. And so she was 28 years old. So I'm not a weirdo. But so we have a birthday and a wedding anniversary only every 4 years. So I better do something big on those years. But we do celebrate every year.
That's good. Okay. I might have figured that out if I had a little bit more time, but that's a good one. I like that.
Yeah.
What does success mean to you?
Success for me is just progress towards my own personal goals, right? So I think it's individualized for everybody, but I think it's progress towards where you want to go. I often talk about going from point A to point B, and you decide first, what's that point B? Where do you want to go? And if I'm moving towards that point B, then I feel like I'm a success.
I like that definition because you're enjoying the path, right? Not the final destination.
Right.
Yeah, I love that. Where's your happy place?
My happy place, well, because of COVID, it's on the Peloton bike lately. But before that, I love to go. I'm in the Phoenix, Scottsdale, Arizona area, and I like to go to spas and just kind of pay the day rate and stay there all day. So spas where, phones aren't allowed and, you get a lot of kind of peaceful time, but steam rooms and saunas and all that stuff. That's kind of the place I like. And I try to go there at least once a month. And I'm hopeful that I can start that back up again.
What qualities do you value in the people you spend time with?
I would think the two biggest thing is authentic. They're authentic, right? They're who they are. They're not hiding. And I tend to like encouraging people that want me to succeed and are kind of like actively encouraging me to do so. Those are probably the qualities of the people that I like to hang around with. And I hang around with a lot of business owners. So I really like the entrepreneur mindset and entrepreneurs in general.
Now, you mentioned your company, Selfluence. Blaine, tell us a little bit more about what you're doing, who you're working with, how you're helping them.
Yeah. So, well, self-fluence, so kind of the art and science of influencing yourself, or the power you already have to influence yourself. It's applicable to anybody, but I primarily work with business owners. And I'm working a lot with mastermind groups as their chief results officer. We can talk about that story, how I became a chief results officer. But right now, that's what I'm doing. And my favorite thing is I have something called Super Results Days, where a group of business owners come together from all over the country on Zoom, and we meet every 3 hours. And we use it kind of as an accountability call to knock out whatever's on your to-do list, but then at the same time learning some new concept that's going to help you in your business. So that's what I really enjoy doing, and basically helping people with what I call personal implementation, right? Getting yourself to do those things that that you should do, want to do, and by design can do. And I think today we'll talk about ways to make that happen.
I can't wait, man. Let's talk about America's Chief Results Officer. How did this come up? How did you get labeled America's Chief Results Officer?
Yeah. So for a good 10, 12 years now, I've been working with mastermind groups, helping the members of those groups to get stuff done each week. And we kind of I've got a framework that works week in, week out. And so they started saying, hey, you're really helping us get results. And they started calling me the chief results officer, inside these mastermind groups. And I said, hey, that's a pretty cool term. And I don't hear a lot of people using it. So I went to the US Patent and Trademark Office and I got the registered trademark. So the R with the circle. So now I can say I'm America's only chief results officer. But basically it's because, my little genius zone, why I'm on the planet, is to help people kind of take control of their lives by taking control of themselves. And over a number of years, I got really good at it. And I would say there was one defining moment that opened up the door for me to be able to do this. And that was a while back. I still had a regular kind of job. I was in the software industry. My degree's in computer science from Purdue University. And so I came home from a rather long business trip, and my son was 1 year old at the time, Bo, and my wife, Beth, who I met at Purdue. We've been married 30 years. I said, hey, what's going on with Bo? Like, why is he giving me the cold shoulder? And she says, well, you were gone so long, he kind of forgot who you were. And I was like, what? I'm like, this is not going to stand. This can't happen. Then I remember when I was a kid, both my parents worked. So I'd come home to an empty house sometimes if my brother wasn't there. And so anyway, that night I made this clarifying decision. No matter what happens, I am going to work from home. Now, it took me a year. I started 2 businesses while holding down my full-time job. But a year later, I was able to break free from the job. And that was 27 years ago. So I've been this kind of work from home dad. Now the kids are out of the nest. I have a lot more free time now. But what happened was, because I didn't have a job, anymore. It allowed me the time to really dig into self-improvement, get mentors, read all the books, take all the programs, go to seminars, and do all that stuff. And that's what really gave me the time to kind of hone my skills, as America's Chief Results Officer. And today, we're going to bring you two of those things that kind of came out of having all that time around the house.
I love it, man. Let's get tactical here. So you've trademarked the 30-minute hour, which I touched on. So how, tell us about this, and how do we get an hour's worth of stuff done in 30 minutes?
Okay, so this is very powerful. And then everything we teach at Selfluence, we often say powered by Selfluence, but everything we teach from Selfluence, there's nothing new. You don't need anything else. You already know how to do it. You just need to focus in a little bit on it. And so this is really powerful, what I'm going to share with you. So it's so powerful that I want to put a little caveat here, and I want to make sure that it's used for good and not for evil. So what I want to do is, let's say, Tim, that you and I, we had 4 of these 30-minute hours in a row. So we got 4 hours worth of stuff done in just 2 hours. Now that leaves us 2 hours of guilt-free time to do whatever we want. Now, you and I were probably type A, so we'd get more work done. But let's say we're not allowed to work. This is where I want you, I'll tell you what I would do, but I'm going to ask you, what would you do with 2 guilt-free hours that are not supposed to be work? Now, you can guess my first thing I would do is probably take a nice long scenic Peloton ride. But the other things, I do like nature. I do like hiking. So I might go out for a hike during that guilt-free time. I like to connect with friends. So connecting with friends, and then working at home, I do kind of like the good old-fashioned nap. So those would be things that I would do with 2 guilt-free hours. What about you? If you had 2 guilt-free hours, do something that you like to do.
I would spend time with my family, my wife and 2 daughters. I, like you, I like to get out. So I live in Colorado. I can mountain bike, paddleboard, anything to get outside.
Okay, perfect. All right. So what I want everyone to do is, everyone should be thinking about that. And I want you to take a little piece of those things and put those back in your day as you kind of experience these 30-minute hours. All right, let's unpack it here. So the 30-minute hour, there's a day during the year, there's this day where people are 3 to 10 times more productive than they are in a normal day. Now that's 3x to 10x. We're only looking for 2x. We're just going from 60 minutes down to 30 minutes. But you're 3x to 10x, 3 to 10 times as much stuff done than your average day. So Tim, do you know what day of the year that is?
That's a great question. My initial thought was the new year, but I don't know.
No, the new year is a productive time, but typically by the end of January, all the steam is gone out of that. But you can have some good days at the beginning of the year. But this is a day that's, for some people, it actually occurs more than once a year, but typically at least once a year for people. Any other guesses? You're like, hey, Blaine, this isn't supposed to be a quiz show here.
I have no idea. The first thing that came to mind was just the beginning of the year, because people have their goals and they're all jazzed and they're ready to go. But
all right, so
help me out.
Here it is, folks. Here it is. Whenever you think of the 30-minute hour, I want you to think of this specific day, and then we're going to unpack it. So it's actually the day before vacation. So the day before vacation, people are 3 to 10 times more productive than their average day, right? And the reason is, and I want you to think of, I'm going to give you an acronym to help you unpack it and have these 30-minute hours. And the acronym is going to be PDF. Now that's, most people say, hey, email me the PDF or print out the PDF. People understand that, that they remember that acronym. So now it doesn't stand for, in the computer world, that stands for portable document format. That's not what we're going to be. But I want you to think 30-minute hour, day before vacation mode, PDF. And the PDF stands for plan, delegate, focus. So let me unpack those, right? So what happens the day before vacation, you plan way better than you normally do. right? And you do what we call next day planning. So I never let a day end without planning the next one. But what happens is the day before vacation, you got to run a tight ship. So you plan it out. And so the first way that you could have a 30-minute hour is simply just to plan the day out the day before, the night before. And when you wake up on the day before vacation, a couple things happen. Day before vacation, people typically get up 30 to 60 minutes earlier. So you want to have a 30-minute hour off the bat, you wake up 30 minutes earlier, you just got an extra 30 minutes, right? So one is you could wake up earlier, but then they mapped out their day very, very succinctly. They're up early. They've got a very clear vision for the day. And throughout the day, they're using the 80-20 rule all day long. So now, Tim, have you heard of the 80-20 rule?
Yes.
Okay, so that's Pareto's principle, which basically says that 20% of what you do produces 80% of your results, and they stay on the day before vacation. You stay working on the 20, the high output stuff, and you focus on the 20 and you oust the 80 that only produces 20%. You don't have time for that stuff, right? So you're planning out your day. You're waking up early. You have a clear vision, and in the planning phase, you're chopping stuff down. In other words, if the day before vacation, somebody says, Blaine, could we meet for an hour to plan out this new project? I'll say, can we do it in 30 minutes? And 9 out of 10 times they say yes. Bam, I just took the hour down to 30 minutes just through planning, just by having what I call the day before vacation, being in what I call the day before vacation mode, that planning mode where you're looking to really plan your day, in such a way that you're able to kind of chop things down into smaller chunks. So that's planning. That's number one. The D stands for delegate. So what happens is on the day before vacation, you become this like delegation machine, right? So you're thinking who before do, right? So who before do. Before you go do something, you think who else could do this? Or you're like, someone else has to go do this because I'm not going to be here. I'm going to be on vacation. So you really become this delegation master and you defer things. And so that's another way that you can easily have a 30-minute hour is what can you delegate? What can you defer? What can you get off your plate? For example, my wife also works from home and she'll be like, look, I'm going out. Can I run any errands for you? Bing, 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 30-minute hour. I don't have to leave here and she can drop the stuff at the post office, pick up some other stuff, do the banking, whatever it is. She just gave me a 30-minute hour. So I'm looking for that. Or maybe you delegate things around the house that because you know what your value is, you have to get it done, right? So if you're going on vacation and meals have to be ready for your kids or something like that, if they're staying home, you're going to kind of delegate that stuff out. So look to meal prep, look to anything that you can do to kind of delegate that can start to create the 30-minute hours. But the most important one, and the one that has the most results, is the focus, right? So we got plan, delegate, focus. Now, on the day before vacation, people have this kind of eerily weird but powerful, fierce focus on what gets done and realize, let's start with what doesn't happen. So on the day before vacation, there's no idle chit chat. There's no shiny objects chasing that new marketing shiny object. There's no long internet searches. There's no super long conversations on the phone, right? You stay on point, you stay on task. And so there's no chit chat and water cooler chit chat and those things. So you're staying focused a lot. You also use the most powerful word that creates more 30-minute hours or avoids 90-minute hours, and that is the word no. So, when people are asking me, on the day before vacation, Blaine, can you do this? No, 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 no. I'm just like a no machine. I'm just spewing no. And so I've adapted that to my normal day. So my knee-jerk reaction is no, N-O. And I always say I know, K-N-O-W. I know better to say no, and no is like embedded in the middle of the word K-N-O-W. But in any case, you say no a lot more. So say no. No can create a lot more time for you. Day before vacation, your focus is such that you stay on schedule. And how do you stay on schedule? One is the plan that you made, but two, there's a high use of timers and reminders. So whether it's a meeting reminder or whether it's a timer, I've got an iPhone, so I'll tell Siri, set a timer for 15 minutes, 30 minutes, right? And I'll use timers all throughout the day. And then the other big thing that happens where you can create some 30-minute hours is that you become an expert at tasking on the day before vacation. So this is one of the biggest ways to get 30-minute hours is tasking. There's three types: single tasking, multitasking, and batch tasking. And so let's start with single tasking. Single tasking is something that only you can do. Like, let's say, every month I work with these mastermind groups and they say, Mr. Results Man, write us an article, right? So every month I have to write an article. That's kind of something that I like to do personally. It's in my voice. I have to do it. So I single task the writing of that article. Now, but when I single task, I mean no distractions. The phone's in airplane mode. All the other screens on the computer are shut down. My wife knows the door's closed. Don't come in here, right? So I'm really, removing all distractions and going in just on that thing. And I'll tell you, if you just do that alone, that when you have single tasking work, that you shut the outside world down, you will get an hour's worth of stuff done in 30 minutes. And so, typically an article that might take me, 6 hours to write and get photos for and proofread and all that, I can do that in half the time, in 3 hours, if I'm undisturbed and no distractions can get through. I love airplane mode. I use airplane mode kind of all the time on my phone. But anyway, so that's single tasking. So when you have that, the key there is to work only on that and to totally shut out the outside world. Now, multitasking gets a bad rap and people say, you can't multitask. Yes, you can. Here's the key to multitasking though. You're doing two things at once without compromising the quality of either one, right? So an example, day before vacation, I've got a 30-minute drive someplace. I'm not just going to listen to my typical 80s rock music. No, I'm going to be like, day before vacation, 30 minutes. I can get these 2 phone calls in, right? So I can drive the car. I got a hands-free phone, totally legal and safe, right? I can safely drive my car and talk on the phone. So I can do those 2 things at the same time. I love exercise. I mentioned that before. I want to get my exercise in, but I can also do work while I'm exercising based on what kind of ride I'm doing. If there's an instructor, no, maybe I have to pay attention, but I ride a lot of scenic rides where I can put my little desk insert in and I can do those 2 things at once. Whether you're doing stuff around the house, there's this synergy where you can do 2 things together. Like, I loved family time, but I also loved exercise. So I taught everybody how to play tennis. So when we all went out and played tennis, we had the family time and the exercise at the same time, right? So, 30 minutes of exercise, 30 minutes of family time, an hour's worth of stuff, but only in 30 minutes because we did it to get, at the same time. We did the multitasking. And then the last one is batch tasking. It's kind of natural, and you do it on the day before vacation, but then you kind of forget about it and you want to bring it back in. So batch tasking is where you batch things together. Like I talked about running errands. If I have 3 errands to run, I don't run an errand, come back, run an errand, come back, run an errand, come back. No, you run it, you go out and you do all 3 together. If you batch your phone calls together, you can get an hour's worth of phone calls done in 30 minutes. If you batch and say, this is the amount of time I have, you don't let it run on. Computer work, like wherever there's a context for things to go together, you'll be more efficient by putting those things together. Or like, I like to stack all my meetings, or podcast things, together all in one day. You batch it together and you're much more, you're much more efficient by batching. You can also batch by context. And what I mean by that is that my wife and I, we both work from home so that we could be interrupting each other all day long. But instead, we have a shared note in the iPhone, and any thoughts we have for each other, we don't want to lose the thought. We put it in there. Then we typically have lunch together. And at lunchtime, now we open up our list. Now, when we're in the context, we're together, then we go through that. Same thing if you have a staff. If you're running your business, and, staff could interrupt you all morning. But if you say, you know what, from 11 to 11:30, we're going to bring the context of us together and answer any questions from the morning. And maybe we'll do the same thing at 2:00. You can save a lot of time by giving yourself that single tasking time by putting in place a few boundaries with some good batch tasking. Anyway, there's a lot of technology you can use, like apps, and you can listen to podcasts like this, at a higher speed. I talk pretty fast. You might not be able to do it on this one, but you can listen. I typically listen about 1.3 speed. So I save some time there. And the last overarching thing that happens with the day before vacation is that you release your inner perfectionist. And that's what really gets a lot of stuff done. So you release your inner perfectionist. It doesn't have to be perfect. Done is better than perfect. You've got to get it done. You're going on vacation. So bring some of that back into your regular day. Again, plan, delegate, focus, and you can have some 30-minute hours. There's a lot to unpack there, Tim.
Yes, there is.
What do you think?
Man, Blaine, you just dropped some serious value. couple things come to mind here. It makes perfect sense once you start talking about the day before vacation. I think all of us can go, oh yeah, okay, it makes perfect sense, because we've all been there. I love the PDF acronym here. I especially love planning, and you know that from how I started this podcast. Man, marketing planning is so important. So many people skip it. But the thing about planning is, one, it outlines what your priorities are, so you have clarity. Because you know what your priorities are, it helps eliminate distractions and your stress goes down. There are so many people that don't plan their day. And then they wonder why it goes off the rails, right?
Right.
So all of these things that you mentioned, it's all about how can we find and create extra time throughout the day. That's how we're getting 30 minutes of stuff, or an hour's worth of stuff done in 30 minutes, right?
Right.
So I love that PDF acronym. What else did I write down here? I love release your inner perfectionist. When we release being perfectionists, we just, hey, this is good. Let's run with it. And honestly, when we run with things, we learn from it, and they will continually get better and better. I also love the idea of the various tasks. Totally agree with you. You said multitasking gets a bad rap, right? But one of the things I noticed when you talked about multitasking was I think where multitasking gets a bad rap is when people are trying to do two different things at the exact same time, right? Like I'm in the middle of a meeting on Zoom and I'm trying to do email at the same time.
Yeah, you're
Those
doing
two
two
things,
single tasking items, and you're trying to do two single tasking items at the same time.
right?
Yes.
So I wanted to bring this out because that's one of the things I noticed that you said. You can multitask, but you have to multitask the correct tasks together.
Right. Good point.
Super important point there. Wow. Okay. So I can't wait to dig into the next question here. So we just talked about 30-minute hour. Loved it. Now let's talk about habits. What you talk about a 21-second habit instead of 21 days, depending on what you read. I've read anywhere from, it takes 21 days, it takes 30, it takes 60 days to create a habit. Let's break this down for us.
Right. Okay. So now the latest research, you're right. The latest research says that to make a habit kind of automatic, no willpower, it's about 60 days actually. But we're going to hack that. We're going to hack that. So instead of 21 days, you're going to be able to do it in 21 seconds. And what I like to say here, like I said before, powered by Selfluence, is that just like the day before vacation, you already know how to organize your day and have a fantastic, highly productive day. You don't have to learn anything new. Just do some of that stuff, right? Well, it's the same thing here with the formation and the creation of new habits. Now, I will say bad habit elimination, like that's a whole nother topic. That's a whole different, that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about creating new habits, new habits that you want to create. So at some other time, we could talk about bad habit elimination. There's a whole strategy around that, and that can improve your life as well. But you want to realize that in creating a new habit, the first thing that I talk to people about is that you are already a habit master. And so when I'm doing this, like in front of a big crowd, people will, I can hear a little hem and hawing. Oh, I'm terrible habits. I'm not good at habits, blah, blah, blah. And so then I have to step back and I have to say, okay, let's answer this question. How many people here, brushed your teeth in the last 24 hours? And so almost every hand goes up. Maybe there's a denture or two in there, but every hand goes up because they already did that. They already habit master. And so I tell this story about how I discovered the 21-second habits, and the key to it was actually my wife. And so fortunately, this is not the case any longer, but at one point in her life, she had nearly daily migraine headaches, which were kind of debilitating. And so what the doctor said, they said, Beth, you have to keep this headache log. And it's like a log, like what you ate, what you think the triggers were, what was the weather like, what was the barometric pressure, did that change, and all these different things. And so my wife would keep the log for a couple of days, and then she'd lose the log or she'd forget to do it. Then she'd have a migraine. Then I'd ask her about it. Bad move there. Realized you don't ever ask that
Yeah.
question during the migraine.
Right.
But then one night we realized that she's the habit master of brushing the teeth for the 2 minutes that the dentist recommend in the morning and at night. And so what we did, and the first key to the 21-second habit is what I like to call habit linking. So she took the headache log, put the toothbrush and the toothpaste on top of it with a pen. And every time she brushed her teeth, she filled out the log and she left it there. So she always knew where it was, but she habit linked it to the brushing of the teeth. And she went 90 days in a row filling out that log and getting all that information back to the doctors, and today, maybe every couple months, she has a migraine. So that data was super important. But the first key to creating a habit in 21 seconds and really kind of almost instantly is to link it to something you're already a habit master at. And let me tell a second story to illustrate this one other component that is very key to that. So when I discovered that, I said, okay, look, I want to create some new habits too. Let's try it out. And so what I did is I said, look, I want to do this Bible app every morning, but then I also want to take a mind shower. So a lot of times people will wash their physical body, but do you wash your mind out? So I use an app called Headspace, but I wanted to wash my mind out every morning. And so I thought, what could I habit link to? How could I create a 21-second habit here? And then I realized that in the morning, the first thing I do is I look at my smartphone. Now, sometimes it's the alarm is going off on my smartphone, but more often than not, I wake up without an alarm. But the first thing I do is I open my smartphone. Now, do I need any willpower to open my smartphone? No. Will I ever forget to open my smartphone? No. It's the first thing I do automatically. And so what I did is on the home page for my iPhone, I pushed all the apps off except for those two apps. And what I did is I habit linked my opening of the phone for the first time in the morning to doing those two items, right? Now I like a 10-minute mind shower in the morning, but if I only have 2 or 3 minutes, I'll just do 2 or 3 minutes. But I can do 2 or 3 minutes for each one of those, no matter what. But here's the second key. So one is the habit linking. The second key is that you need to surf some kind of an urge to make sure you do the habit. So in other words, when I open up my phone, why am I opening my phone in the morning? Well, I want to see if my kids texted me, did any orders come in, what's going on with the projects I'm doing. I've got a director of operations, like, maybe she's emailed me, like, I want to know what's going on, maybe what's going on in the world. I want to know all that stuff. And so I surf that urge to want to know what's going on to do that habit. And the cool thing about these apps is they track it, right? So like today was like day 1,535 in a row, 1,535 days in a row that I've done that habit. So now it's an ingrained, natural habit. But in the beginning, when I first started, I didn't need any willpower to do that, right? I just needed, it happened every day because I linked it to that thing that I do. Another good example is you bring up planning. And I had this one attorney, and she's like, Blaine, I know I should plan, but I just don't do it. And then I said, well, Ann, what's the first thing you do every morning without fail? Like you never miss it and you need no willpower. And she said, well, I have a cup of coffee. Like if I don't have that cup of coffee, I'm like a different person. So I said, great, let's habit link that. So before you can have the first sip of coffee, you have to start your plan for the day. Now, I don't care if you drink the coffee and make the plan, but you got to start it before that first sip. You got to surf the urge to want that coffee, and let that urge kind of give you the energy to drive you to do that habit. So anyway, that worked for her, and she's off to the races. So there's lots of things you can habit link to. Things you do once a day, multiple times a day, like brushing the teeth. Things you do once a week, once a month. I've curated a big list of things that clients have habit linked to. But the key there is the habit linking and then surfing the urge. And then if you can have some leverage on yourself, to keep doing it, right? So there is this psychological concept. If you do something, it's about 3 or 4 days in a row, then you don't want to break the chain, right? So getting some leverage on yourself by putting a chain of the new habit together is one. You can also use penalties. You can, get a buddy and say, look, if I break the habit, come up with some kind of penalty for yourself, whether it's, you have to do, 1,000 push-ups or there's lots of ways to have accountability around that, but something, something that stings a little bit, right? So pain is a motivator, but also pleasure, reward. So you could say, hey, if I do this habit for 10 days in a row, 30 days in a row, give yourself a little reward. So it's not just, it's habit linking is the core, but then surfing the urge and then having some leverage, a reward or a penalty, as that habit grows is really, really the key. So what do you think about that, Tim?
So I love it. The habit linking makes perfect sense. You're leveraging something that you're already doing to help you create that new habit. The second step, it's surfing, like
Urge surfing. So you
urge
surf
surfing.
the urge for something. Like in my case, it was the urge to see, like when I open my phone, I see there's text messages, right? Could be from my kids. One lives in Denmark. I'm like, I want to know what's going on. Like I surf that urge because I'm not allowed to touch those other things until I do those two apps, on the homepage.
Got it. So it's yeah, it's the urge is bringing you there, and then you've got because you only had that, you have two apps right on the homepage.
Right.
You're riding the urge for the other thing, but it's taking you to what you want to accomplish.
Right. And just like, Anne was surfing the urge to want to drink the coffee. And
Yes.
just like Beth is surfing the urge to get her teeth clean. Like she's want to go to bed with a gritty teeth feeling. So that urge is like, she has to brush her teeth. She cannot go to bed without brushing her teeth. But if she has to do the headache log, as she's brushing or before she brushes, then that urge for the thing you want drives you into that action that you desire.
Got it. Yeah. So it's the urge is, okay, I've got to get this done. Then I can have this thing that I really want.
Well, the urge is for the thing that you really want.
Yes. Yes.
So like I want to see what's going on in the world. So I, it's the urge is the thing you want on the back end of doing. It's like it's almost like your reward, but there's that excitement about what's in my text. See, on my home screen at the bottom, there's 4 apps, and one of them is my text messages. So I can see that there's text messages in there, and that excitement, that desire to want to see what those are, that gets me juiced. It gives me the juice to go do those other 2 things.
Yeah, got it. That's fascinating. So really the habit linking though is the key, because that's how you change. That's how you can get that habit established in such a short period of time, because you already have the habit. You're just using one habit to create another.
Right. And you want to psychologically, we're battling the brain chemicals here, and you want to win early and win often. So even if you have to nano size, your goal, still do it. Right. So I know that some people, they'll habit link exercise to their morning shower, saying I'm going to do my exercise before I take my shower. Now sometimes they might say I don't have any time before my shower today, and that's when we say, look, instead of missing your habit, just do 5 push-ups, 5 jumping jacks, run in place. Just do something. Do something for 1 minute. You got 1 minute or 3 minutes. I try to get them to do 3 minutes, but you have enough time. Keep the streak alive, psychologically, and then your brain is going to reward you with good brain chemicals. But whatever you decide to have it linked to, keep that, even if you have to shrink it down. Like I like a 10-minute mind shower in the morning, but I'm happy with a 3-minute one if that's all I have.
Do you recommend people track their progress of that habit, right? So I want to create this habit of having a 10-minute mind shower. Do I actually write this down and go, yep, checked it off today, checked it off, I've checked it off for the last 7 days, right? Is something like that helpful?
Yes, especially in this battle of the brain chemicals, right? You get a little hit of dopamine whenever you finish something. You get a little boost in self-confidence every time you extend, a habit. Now, if you can get past 3 or 4 days, then there's a psychological power that you don't want to break the chain of those many days in a row. So I would say, yes, you want to track it. Now, there are devices, right? So I'm using Headspace and I'm using this thing called the Bible app. And both of those, they track your streak. How many days in a row have you done the thing? So it's automatically tracking there for me. Now, I do a daily day design sheet, which I go analog. I like to go analog. So I have a digital calendar and all my stuff's in there. But when I plan my day, I'm analog. piece of paper. It's a form. I have a sheet that I use, but I'm by hand putting in my little calendar and what things I want to do that day.
Yeah.
But inside that sheet, whatever those habits are, I'm giving myself a little dopamine squirt because I have a checkbox that says, yeah, you took the mind shower, right?
Yeah.
So yes, logging that in some way. Another method, I like bullet journaling, and that's where you can kind of design your own little spreadsheet for the month in your bullet journal where you get a little check mark every day and you can visually see how many days in a row you did it. So I love tracking, and you know it works. Win early, win often. Now, if you're tracking it and you're failing, okay, if you're failing, and this happens, we're human, is you need to nanosize it. You need to make it small enough so that the resistance disappears and you win. There is a golden ratio to winning. Now, for me, the golden ratio is about 90-10. Like I need to win like 9 days out of 10. Now, I don't want to win 10 out of 10 because then I'm not learning, right? So if I reach my goals like every day for a week, all the stuff I said I was going to do, I get done, then I got to put in a harder day, right?
Yeah.
I noticed this golden ratio when I was coaching my kids. They both played tennis in high school. And in tennis, it was like 70-30. So if they're winning more than 70% of the time, their matches, they're not learning anything. Right. And so when they were winning 80-90% of the time, I had to like make them play, in the age group one up higher. And like, Dad, I don't want to play in there. I'm like, you got to learn. You got to keep learning, but the opposite was true. If they started losing, more than 30% of the time, 40% of the time, 50% of the time, 60% of the time, they're going to quit tennis.
Yeah.
So then I got to get them back into something easier and you got to win. So there's some ratio that works for you. Some people it's 50-50, me it's 90-10, but you want to be, psychologically, you want to be winning. So dial down the resistance. If you don't meet the goal, like if you say, I'm going to exercise 30 minutes a day and you don't do it, dial it down. If you got to dial it down to 10 minutes, do 10. If you can't do 10, dial it down to 3. If you can't do 3, dial it down to 1. But my gosh, you're going to be able to do 1 minute of exercise.
Yeah.
Even if
Yes.
it's while you're, doing something else.
Yeah.
While you're eating
Yeah.
breakfast, you're jogging in place. Whatever you have
Right.
to do, get it in.
Couldn't
Yeah.
you say like walking back and forth across the kitchen is exercise, right? I don't know.
Right. Yes.
Blaine, this has been awesome, man. You've I love it. Any thoughts you want to leave us with today?
I just want to leave you with a couple of things. One is that you realize the power that you have already to influence yourself, and that your mindset and your mind, and I was saying, what you think about, you bring about. I call it YTABA. It's an acronym for what you think about, you bring about. And I did a little TEDx talk about that. But the power of your mind is probably your biggest asset. That you have, and I'll leave you kind of with this saying that I like is the bad news. The bad news is that time flies. The good news, you're the pilot. So take the reins, get some planning in. Like Tim and I, we love planning. Get some planning in, and make that happen. And if you don't plan, it's like getting on the airplane and you look into the cockpit and there's no pilot. There's no pilot. How long are you going to sit on that plane? Well, that's what you're doing every single day. You get up without a plan, right? And you're losing all that time in the morning as well. So anyway, plan well and plan often.
I love it. And people can learn more about you. They can either go to selfluence.com, your website, or they can go to Blaine TEDx. That's BlaineTEDx.com. What are they going to find at BlaineTEDx.com?
Yeah, so there's a little opt-in there, and you get a copy of my TEDx talk. And so if you're not familiar, TED Talks are a big idea worth sharing, but you have limited time, so it's only like 12 minutes. But if you opt in there, you'll get a copy of the talk and a transcript, and you'll learn this one kind of hack to actually take whatever your main goal is, whatever the thing you're trying to bring about, and program it into your subconscious mind about 100 times a day without having to do anything else. So that's a pretty cool little hack. You'll learn that there. And and I just, that talk just went over 200,000 views. So it is popular, and then we'll be connected. So you get to learn a little about me, but if there's any way I can help you get results, I'd love to do that. That's why I'm on the planet.
Awesome. Blaine, thank you so much, man. I appreciate you. This has been a fantastic conversation. You dropped a ton of value. So thank you for doing that. It's been an absolute pleasure.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Tim, and thank you for helping business owners across the world to plan more and to get more done and to have better results. So I appreciate you and the opportunity to share today.
Awesome. And for those of you watching, listening, appreciate you as well. If you're stuck with your marketing, you know you have opportunities for growth, but you're not sure what to do to get there, head on over to our website. It's rialtomarketing.com. That's RIALTO marketing.com. Click on the Get a Free Consult button. I would be happy to chat with you. You can also head on over to growthmarketingplan.com. There you will find the 90-day marketing plan template that we use, the video instructions, the template, sample plans, all the stuff you need to start working on your marketing plan today are there as well. So thank you again. Till next time, take care.